Returning to rugby post-pregnancy is becoming increasingly more common. However, due to the complications and dangers it poses on the female body, it has not always been an attainable goal. So, what are the physiological complications that athletes, like rugby players, struggle with postpartum? Number 1. Pelvic floor weakness and incontinence. Because pregnancy can cause weakness and damage to the pelvic floor, it is very common for women to experience bladder or bowel leakage in their day-to-day life. Physical activity like running can sometimes cause this to happen more frequently. It is essential that athletes must try to regain strength in their pelvic floor before returning to exercise. Number 2. Prolapse. Prolapse is when one or more of the organs in the pelvis slip down from their normal position and bulge into the vagina. It can be the womb, bowel, or bladder, and can cause pain and discomfort. Pelvic floor exercises can help improve symptoms. Number 3. Stretching of the abdominal wall, also known as diastasis recti. This is a common condition in pregnant and postpartum people. It occurs when the abdominal muscles separate during pregnancy from being stretched. This can cause some basic movements to be painful, and it is important to try and return the abs back to their former positioning before doing too much physical activity. Number 4. Episiotomy or tearing pain. An episiotomy is an incision used to make the opening for traditional birth a little bit wider, allowing the baby to come through more easily. Sometimes this happens naturally during birth anyway. It takes time for the wound to heal, and sometimes certain movements could pull on these areas and cause pain. Number 5. Disruption to the myofascial layer and scar tissue pain. This is something that can be a challenge as a result of caesarean births. The myofascial layer is a thin but tough connective tissue that wraps around most of the structures within the body, including muscles. One part goes from the shoulder across the body to the opposite hip. This means that it can be disrupted by a C-section due to the location, and therefore it can cause more scar tissue. Scar tissue causes pain when touched or stretched, and too much scar tissue can cause further complications. As well as these physical complications, we must also consider the psychological effects that may make the process of returning after pregnancy even harder.
Not from a potentially symptom point of view, but I think sometimes massively it's a fear thing. So you actually, from an anxiety, a worry, a society's view on returning to exercise postnatally, it could be the fact that they're too scared to return. So it could be the fact that they see something says never do a press up again, never do a sit up again, never do a burpee again, and they go, oh God, I don't know what to do, so they don't do anything. So then they hold themselves back that way. So huge sort of social thing. I mean, but there again, I have to say it's not just society putting that, it's the fact that we've got lack of research.
Another thing that should also be considered is how pregnancy can cause general deconditioning of the body, meaning that even if somebody exercised through pregnancy and felt that their pelvic floor and abdominal wall were better, they may still be more prone to injuries due to pregnancy causing a big step back in global strength. Posture is also something that is impacted by pregnancy. The quick change from having the weight of the baby to not having the weight of the baby can make things difficult because your posture can't switch back instantly, and athletes must ensure they have returned to their optimum posture before they can exercise safely. Rugby has a large contact element, and this must be considered during the recovery.
The reason why the contact changes it compared to, say, just like if you want to do a 5K, is because of the level of power that's needed. So when you take an impact, the amount of force going through your body, the abdominal pressure that is going to create is far, far higher than if you were doing like 12 reps of like a weight in the gym, or it's mass force, right? And especially when you get to a good level, the force is unbelievable that hits into each other. And if you don't have, I'd say it's less from like a wound perspective. People get really caught up in the postnatal side of like, is my C-section, like, is it fully closed, and like, is my perineal tear like fully healed? Of course it's important, but that's not actually what stops people getting back. It's the conditioning of the body. And if you've gradually deconditioned over 9 months, and then in the early postpartum you've got probably another like 8 to 12 weeks of that happening, you are going to take, if you were to take someone who had an injury that had them out of the sport for like 10, 11 months, you're not going to get them from that deconditioned state back on full contact. They've actually built up like 1 rep max power in the gym. they're able to like do like from an elite level, like good squat jump test, good like, you know, all that testing, because they need that power there. And when we rehab someone, we have to work that endurance control first, then we start building up power. So you can't really skip that. Like, it's a strength and conditioning issue. It's not a wound or acute healing issue, if that makes sense. But that's where rugby's different.
If you found this topic interesting and want to hear more about what it's like to return to rugby post-pregnancy, you can read a series of insightful features about women who have experienced it and how they are spreading awareness on my website.